So there's this book that I read in high school, and a lot of the other books that I read in high school I always say are some of my favorite books, but I don't actually remember very much about them, and it is 1984. This book has made a huge resurgence recently because of the current state of the media and a lot of stuff that kind of draws into question, like, what is truth and how do we know what truth is? And this book takes it really, really far, but it's very, very interesting. George Orwell was a really deep thinker from the 1940s or so. I think this book was published in 1949. And he really was writing about the Soviet Union and how something like that could happen to any of us. And something that Stalin did that is very reminiscent of what's in this book is he took people that he didn't like, or that were enemies of the state, or the party, as it's referred to in 1984, and would erase them completely. He would take them out of photos, he would take them out of references, he would change books. Instead of burning books like Nazis did, like they do in Fahrenheit 451, which is another great dystopian warning of the future that could potentially come. In 1984, they don't burn books, and in Stalin Russia, they did not burn books. They changed what they said. And that's actually what Winston, the main character in this book's job is to go back through. He works for something called the Ministry of Truth, which is kind of ironic. And he goes back through and he changes references to things that don't exist anymore. And he starts to question, what is truth? And there's certainly something more true than what is written. And how do you prove that outside of your own head? And it's an amazing book. I highly recommend you read it. It starts off a little dry. It's very interesting, though, the world that he sets up. And about maybe a third of the way through, it starts getting really interesting, and then it starts to slow down and get a little boring again, and then it gets really interesting. I was reading this at night, an hour before bed, like I normally do, and I was probably on page like 220 out of 320, including the afterwards. And I don't normally read more than 100 pages at once, but I could not put it down. And it's pretty crazy for a classic to do that, but that's kind of the point of them being classics. I think a lot of people kind of put their nose up to older books because they think, what could this have that a newer book doesn't, that has all of the benefits of new technology and new research that writers can do, and all the publishing processes that make books written better. But this is a solid book, and I highly recommend, if you have not ever read 1984, you totally check this out. And if you read it in high school and you think you know what it's about, you probably don't remember it very well. Read it again with your new kind of understanding of what's going on in the world, and it's just going to blow your mind. The thing about doublethink, where you know something is not true, that's what it talks about a lot in this book, and you know something that's not true, you tell yourself it is true, and then you forget that you told yourself it was not true. And it's this cycle where you start to believe in the reality of what's going on, or what's not going on, what the party is telling you is going on. And it kind of reminds me of how often there's this like anti-intellectual movement going on, and the idea that ignorance is bliss in a very real way, that like people think, oh, learning is stupid and things like that. And obviously there's different people, and there's always going to be. But this is just a really interesting thought about how easy it could be to manipulate the past, and how would we even know? So check it out. Have a good day, and don't fall in love with Big Brother.